Shut it. You're the one who lost, Loki. You're awfully full of yourself for someone who just happened to be born black.
This bird can straight hit you with a Mortal Kombat fatality.
Finish him!
Introducing the cassowary, a species of ratite native to the land down under. And for once, guys, it's not venomous. Can still flatline you though, and I'm going to tell you how. You see, these neon chickens belong to the same family of birds as the emu, and as such share their impressive size, coming in at a solid 79 kilos and growing up to 6 feet tall, meaning the short kings in my audience could, in theory, mount these things like a chocobo. But what makes them stick out from emus? Well, you see, the cassowary is basically a spec ops emu, being twice the weight, highly territorial, and most importantly, coming with a combat knife strapped to their foot. That's right, this is a cassowary claw, and it's the reason they can hit you with a fighting game finisher. You see, these claws are a full 5 inches long. And you know what I mean? Honestly, 5 inches, way too big for anything, and especially for something that's going inside me. And if you anger the tactical assault turkey, that is exactly what you're gonna get, as their go-to defense method is to kick you square in the gut with that kitchen knife and attempt to disembowel you. And I mean, even if the kick doesn't put your insides on the outsides, that kick is still going to send you flying, which can cause some fairly major problems. Problems like the incident that occurred in 2012, where I you not, a cassowary ran up behind a random tourist, hit the heavy attack button, and kicked the guy down a small cliff into the ocean. I mean, luckily he survived, but the fact that I live in a country where at any point I could be hit with a sneak attack by a kaiju turkey is terrifying. Kangaroos can and will beat you up. That's right, just because it's not venomous doesn't mean it can't knock you on your ass, and Australia's most iconic marsupial can do just that. Because they are way bigger than you think they are. With our biggest species of roo coming in at a ridiculous 2.8 meters in length. And with the iconic hop, they've got a vertical jump of 3 meters. I mean, honestly, with a stat spread like that, they don't belong in the outback, they belong on a fucking NBA court. As if that wasn't enough, they're also built like tanks, weighing in at a full 90 kilos of roid-raging rabbit muscle, and being able to move way faster than anything that heavy has any right to, pegging the speedo at a max of 70k an hour. Meaning if you make them angry, a juiced up rat the size of a small car is going to run your ass down and beat the f***ing brakes off you. And I'm not kidding when I say they really will rock your shit, because roos are professional kickboxers, with males routinely fighting MMA to win female attention. When they fight, kangaroos will lean back on their tails as a stabilizer and immediately start scratching and kicking the ever-loving shit out of one another. And those kicks have enough force to crack bone. And as if getting drop-kicked by a muscled marsupial wasn't bad enough, they also for some reason have the same bite force as a grizzly bear, because why not? Now, even with all of this, there are still animals stupid enough to view a roo as lunch, which brings me to the most terrifying thing that they do. When threatened, kangaroos will hop into a body of water and wait for whatever is chasing them to follow them in. Once the predator enters the water, the kangaroo will wrap its arms around their neck and just straight up drown them. What the f***, man? I share a country with psychopathic tren rats. Oh! This bird has to rearrange its organs and skeleton just to lay an egg. This cute little guy is the kiwi bird, a species of ratite native to New Zealand this time, and the absolute poster child for getting cucked by evolution. You see, this walking featherball is actually directly related to the emu, ostrich, and cassowary, being a member of the same family of flightless birds. However, there is a problem. You see, the rest of the kiwi's bloodline actually looked up a build guide before picking their stat spread, and as such made sure to trade the whole flying thing for something useful. With all of his cousins specking into speed, size, and some kind of offensive capability. So that leaves the question, what did the kiwi pick to make up for not flying? Absolutely f***ing nothing. Kiwis are tiny in comparison to their relatives, coming in at only 4 kilos in weight and 50 centimeters tall. This is because kiwis evolved largely on an island with no natural predators, so they downsized and traded out the knife feet and bloodlust for just being a little guy with a good attitude, which honestly worked pretty well for them, until the British did British things, and now they have to deal with cats and dogs trying to eat them. And considering this build was not designed for PvP, they have been clapped so hard by invasive species that they are now unfortunately an endangered animal. But getting shafted by the British is just the beginning of the generational violation of the Kiwi, because these poor feathered fruits can't even reproduce without getting f***ed over. You see, the Kiwi bird's cousins are famous for laying huge eggs. I'm talking hit your protein macros in one meal-sized eggs. And you would think that is because they are large. And you would be wrong. Because their vertically challenged cousins have to lay eggs the same size. A Kiwi bird lays eggs 20% the size of their body. With the egg being so bloody large, it rearranges their internal organs and stretches their rib cage just to be able to hold the thing. For reference, that is like a human giving birth to a 15-kilo child. That's not a bun in the oven anymore. That's a whole f***ing bakery. Koalas are really dumb. In fact, Australia's fuzzy icon is probably the dumbest thing on the planet. And that stupidity starts with their diet, because of all the things they could have chosen to eat, they chose to eat nothing but straight up poison. You see, koalas feed exclusively on eucalyptus leaves, which, shocking no one, are highly toxic, because they are full to the brim with eucalypt oil, which is so fucking poisonous that as little as 3.75 mil is enough to land you in the afterlife, with the Reaper asking you why the fuck you felt the need to eat a leaf.
Why?
Oh, it's also highly flammable and burns like napalm, because Australia. Now, despite nature putting up this giant do not eat sign, that did not stop the koala, because he can't fucking read. This suboptimal bulking diet not only gives the koala fuck all in the way of nutrition, but also requires their body to rest to filter out the toxins so they don't fucking cark it. Meaning they need to spend upwards of 18 hours a day sleeping in order to just digest their fucking food. These dumbasses spend most of their life in a food coma. That is, however, if they even get to the food to begin with, because they are so mind-numbingly brain dead that they will not recognize a eucalyptus leaf as food unless it is on the branch. I could give this dumbass a lifetime supply of food, and if it wasn't on a stick, he would starve to death. It should come as no surprise to you at this point that the koala has such an esky temperature IQ that they literally have a smooth brain. The thoughts slide right off of this dumb cunt. I love him. This animal will peel your face off like a banana. Introducing the one creature that strikes fear into the hearts of every Aussie. The infamous, terrifying drop bear. A species of predatory marsupial exclusive to the land down under. This genuine nightmare may seem pretty normal at first, closely resembling the koala bear, and that is by design. You see, the drop bear is an ambush predator, patrolling the branches of the eucalyptus tree and using their keen sense of smell to detect incoming prey. And once they can smell you approaching, they will position themselves in the leaves of the trees, being basically impossible to spot unless you're actively looking for them. And even if you do see them, you're automatically going to assume it's a koala. And that assumption is probably going to be the last mistake you make, because walking under these things is inviting the most painful death you can f***ing think of. Once you've walked into range, the drop bear will launch itself from a tree and aim directly for your f***ing head. Small animals will often be clapped on impact as the 20-kilo drop bear launched itself out of the tree so fast that it snaps their spine. And they're the lucky ones, because once they make contact with your head, drop bears will immediately puncture your scalp with their foreclaws and latch on like a fuzzy little face hugger. Once firmly attached to your skull, the drop bear will start to kick out your eyes with its hind claws in an attempt to blind you, and while they are forcing you to cosplay Daredevil, they will be tearing into your face with their fangs like a fucking chainsaw. The attacks are so vicious, most human victims end up being completely scalped and having their faces removed. And even if you manage to pull them off in the initial assault, those claws contain a potent neurotoxin which will paralyze you in under 5 minutes, allowing them to run you down and eat you alive. Australia loses roughly 600 people per year to drop bear attacks. So if you want to survive your trip down under, I have a secret to share with you about the drop bear. And that secret is that all of this is complete and utter bullshit. Drop bears aren't real. I made it all up. April Fool's cunt. Scientists just de-extincted a 12,000-year-old dog. Well, kinda. You see, a bioengineering company called Colossal has dedicated itself to doing what every single Jurassic Park film has told us is a bad idea. Bringing back extinct species. And recently, they made a breakthrough. They have managed to bring back the 12,000-year-old direwolf. You know those big-ass puppies from Game of Thrones that the Starks had? Yeah, those were actually a real-ass animal, alive during the late Ice Age. And the best way I can describe them to you is, basically a wolf on steroids. Yeah, buddy! These things were bigger, faster, and stronger, estimated to have the highest bite force out of any canine. And in a move that I'm sure has no implications, they have managed to bring these bad boys back to life. These two little guys are now 6 months old and have been living on a private plot of land with 24/7 veterinary care. However, they've only just been shown off to the public, with the company going so far as to get a photo op with George R.R. Martin holding one of these adorable little killing machines, showing that man will literally interact with an extinct species before he finishes that last f***ing book. There is, however, one small problem. This isn't technically a direwolf. You see, by merit of them being extinct, short of specking into necromancy, you can't exactly bring them back. Which is where this guy comes in. You see, the grey wolf shares 99.5% of its genetic code with the direwolf. So, using CRISPR gene editing, they basically toss the grey wolf back into the spore creator, then using the code found in direwolf fossils as a build guide, juiced the out of it, boosting the size slider and putting some extra points into strength, as well as adjusting its head shape and teeth. All in all, they made a total of 20 edits to 14 genes, producing the closest thing we can get to a direwolf short of time travel. Which is cool as f***. I give it 5 years before a man-made horror beyond comprehension breaks out of that f***ing lab and we are all playing Resident Evil. Who wins? 100 men or 1 gorilla? Well, to get your answer, we're going to have to look at our fighters for the most anticipated cage match of 2025. And in the red corner, standing at an impressive 6 feet tall and weighing a ridiculous 220 kilos, we have one singular silverback gorilla. Stepping into the ring to settle the score against humanity for what we did to Harambe, this fighter is bringing some impressive physical strength, capable of lifting up to 800 kilos of weight, meaning that if it gets its hands on you, a gorilla is more than capable of picking you up and doing you the same way that Hulk did Loki. Now, on top of being stronger than Eddie Hall, they also have an unreal reach advantage with a 2.6 meter wingspan. Which is a fairly major problem because a right hook from a gorilla produces 2,700 pounds of force. To put that into perspective, the human skull shatters at 1,400. So if Winston hits you with a haymaker, your head is gonna pop like a watermelon. And with the cage fight following the Mortal Kombat rule set, we can also factor in the gorilla's bite. Because despite being a pretty gentle herbivore in the wild, they have one of the highest bite forces on the planet at 1,300 PSI. That is 100 PSI more than a polar bear. And now, with our fighter statistics out of the way, let's get down to business. Can our gorilla win a fight against the 100 average men in the blue corner? Place your bets. Let's see who comes out on top. Yeah, look, I'm going to keep it real with you. Even with those stats, Winston here is getting bodied. I'm sorry, he's going back to the spawn room. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Directly to hanging out with Harambe in heaven. 100 people, it's just too fucking many. He's getting jumped. However, not to say he's not going to take a few with him. My guess is one guy runs up and gets swatted across the cage like a toddler, shatters his ribs against the bars. Second guy gets grabbed by the leg and given the Hulk treatment. About 6 other guys cop swings to the head and die instantly from broken necks. One dumbass is probably going to try to hit him off the top rope and get done the same way that Omni-Man did Nightwing. But at that point, the crowd probably jumps in and realizes that there are still about 90 of them and it's over. Not that the fight even needs to happen, but it wouldn't be the first time we lost a gorilla to human stupidity. A gorilla can't beat 100 men in a fight. He gets jumped. But that begs the question, which animal does win? And the answer, stepping into the ring at 5 meters long and weighing in at a genuinely frightening 4,500 kilos, I present to you the hippopotamus. Yeah, look, a hippo causing a 100-long line at the gates of heaven after a fight is honestly pretty plausible. You see, despite the fantastic PR work Moodang has done for the hippopotamus community, doesn't change the fact that Moto here is a sentient Ford F-150, the temperament of a fucking serial killer who can win this fight for one very specific reason. You can't fucking hurt it. Yeah! You say the hippopotamus is possibly the tankiest land animal on the fucking planet, packing an unbelievably thick 2-inch hide. Now look, we all know 2 inches is a lot, especially in the sheets, but in the streets of the African savannah, this makes them practically Don't believe me? Here is a hippopotamus walking away from 10 lions trying to convert it into a family meal. Notice how the hippopotamus does not give a single fuck. If Mufasa and his extended family can't hurt it, neither can you. However, don't let the fact that it's walking away fool you here. The hippopotamus is not a peaceful animal. They are, in fact, violent, psychopathic, 4.5-ton thundercats that can and will bite you in half. A hippo's jaw produces 2,000 PSI of pure crushing force. So if he catches your ass, you are the watermelon. And as if the hydraulic press wasn't bad enough, don't forget they've got 2 20-inch fangs in that mouth that'll put a hole in you big enough to stick your f***ing arm through. But honestly, the bite doesn't even f***ing matter. It weighs 4.5 tons and can run at 30k an hour. Getting hit by a charging hippo is like getting hit by a f***ing bus. There is no way we are winning a fight against something that could probably take out 10 people just by rolling over. In summary, don't f*** with the hungry hippo. This pigeon saved an entire army battalion.
Heroes never die.
Introducing our protagonist, Jeremy, a carrier pigeon who was in the employ of the US Army Signal Corps during World War I. You see, back in the oldie times, radio technology was, kind of dog shit. So carrier pigeons were still the meta for DMing the homies memes over distance. Which is how, in 1918, our feathered little shock trooper here ended up in France, with 500 US soldiers stuck 3 kilometers behind enemy lines, completely cut off from supply and reinforcement in a 7-day shootout. You see, Jeremy's battalion, juiced up on freedom and red crayons, had overextended and become trapped, surrounded on all sides by German soldiers. And to make matters worse, being stuck behind enemy lines meant they were now on the receiving end of US defense spending, being absolutely hammered with friendly artillery. Now, stuck as far away as they would have had more luck using their radio as fucking nunchucks than a comms device. So they began sending out carrier pigeons in an attempt to tell command to stop fucking shelling them and help on the point. However, the Germans were having none of that shit and shot every single carrier pigeon the battalion sent out of the air like they were running an AIM Labs warm-up. Until only one remained, Jeremy. Desperate and rapidly running out of soldiers, the battalion wrote a message and attached it to Jeremy, sending him into the air and watching him sail above the trees. And just when they thought he was clear, some f***ing sweat on the German side nailed him. The battalion watched in horror as their last hope spiraled out of the sky. The bullet tore straight through Jeremy's center of mass, destroying one eye, punching a hole through his chest, and blowing off one of his legs. And this giga chad of an animal tanked it.
Yeah!
you have any ibuprofen? I got a headache.
The Marines watched in awe as this mangled pigeon picked itself out of the mud and managed to fly clear of German fire. Jeremy made it the whole way back to base, delivering the message and saving a total of 194 soldiers. Not only did he get the job done, but he f***ing lived. He was granted one of the highest military honours the French army could provide and sent into retirement with his trainer, and when he eventually did pass several years later, he was preserved and placed in the Smithsonian, where you can go see him today. There he is. Absolute f***ing legend.